today's video, I am going to talk to you guys about the global read aloud books, and I'm going to give you guys some book recommendations on my favorite books from the global read aloud list. So the global read aloud is a list of books and it runs from September to December, so if you want to read these books you can definitely do that. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Amal, Unbound, and it's by Aisha, Saeed. So I read this like 1 month ago, and this is a story of Amal's life basically, and she is from a Pakistani village and she loves to read and write, and she is very passionate about education, and then she has to stay home to take care of her family. Later on, when she becomes an indentured servant, unfortunately, she learns the hard way of life and she is still able to manage and hopefully one day go home as that happens. So I'm sorry I couldn't really talk much about it, but I really liked the book and I'm going to give you my honest review. I really enjoyed reading it. There are 44 chapters and 226 pages, just to let you know, so I would definitely recommend it. The next book recommendation is Refugee by Alan Gratz. So Amal, Unbound is a realistic fiction novel and this is historical fiction. This is actually in 3 different point of views. So you have Joseph's story, and he is a Jewish boy from Germany and the Holocaust is going on, and it's kind of, these stories are like stories of survival basically. So the Nazis have invaded Europe basically, so with the threat of concentration camps, his family is planning on escaping. Isabel is from Cuba and it's the 1990s and the Soviet Union has just collapsed. There are riots going on in her country and she is planning on escaping to America. Mahmoud is from Syria and his story I would say is the most recent because his story is from 2015, and with the Syrian war going on, he must escape in order to prevent his family from dying from airlifts. So he has to escape to Germany, and one thing I find really interesting is the end of the book, all 3 stories connect. Like in Amal, Unbound, the part that I found really interesting was that Amal finds her way home and she's just really happy it all happened, but then sad at the same time to say goodbye to her friends. And then in Refugee, I found it kind of similar but in a different way, how all 3 stories connect, and it's just amazing. So now I'm going to talk about A Monster Calls, and A Monster Calls, unfortunately I can only read 2 chapters per day because it's something that we're reading in school. So I mean, it's part of the 7th grade curriculum in English class, and this is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. After looking at the cover, I didn't really feel like I wanted to read it. The blurb wasn't that interesting, but after I started reading it, I really started to enjoy it. This is actually magical realism, a genre that you might not think really exists, but it does exist. It's a combination of fantasy and realistic fiction, and at the same time it's also a little bit of a psychological thriller because the monster is not real. So yeah, so this story is about Connor. He is a 13-year-old boy and he lives in southern England, and there are yew trees there. So his mom is going through cancer treatments, and ever since his mom started her cancer treatments, he has been having these nightmares, and in these nightmares the yew tree comes to life and becomes a monster. And he's actually not scared of the monster because the monster is nothing but a yew tree, and the monster or the yew tree does start kind of like telling him stories and all of that, and that's something I find really interesting. So we're just going to call the yew tree the monster because the yew tree actually turns into the monster. So the monster wants him to realize what may or may not happen in life, what has happened in the past, and kind of the monster's goal is to teach Connor these lessons. So through these 3 stories, he teaches Connor lots of life lessons, and as the stories progress, the story kind of unravels, and you can kind of learn more about Connor's village and the city where he lives in. So that's what I find really interesting. And then there are also incidents with his family, his father, his grandmother. I think the story does cover a lot of themes, including divorce. So overall, it's a very entertaining read, and I wouldn't say I liked it as much as these two books, but I still really enjoyed it. And I'm actually not done yet. I still have like 2 pages left, so I'm gonna probably finish reading it today. But I really enjoyed it, and that's all I have to say for this book. And then I'm almost done with this video, by the way, if you were wondering. This is We Were Liars by Lockhart. This is a mystery novel, again, something I wouldn't normally read, but it's very appealing and interesting and compelling, actually, so it's all 3 of those things. So this is a story of the Sinclair's family, and it's a regular story, but it has a twist. It's like paranormal, but then later on you learn that they're liars, and from the first page you can tell that they're liars, and there's something that this girl isn't letting the world know, and you don't know what it is. And as you go on in the story kind of unravels, and you will eventually find out what actually happens. So that's kind of interesting. Not kind of, it's very interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please let me know, and I would love to see you guys in my future videos. And also, well, I don't really have anything else to say, so just let me know how your day went, and bye!